So we saw that a very beautiful young woman walked into the auditorium, and I got people saying that, I've seen her before. I think I know her. You think you know her? Me too, I think I know her. But then, today we have a very special woman in our midst, and we are definitely inspiring you. So her story and any counsel that is coming from her is definitely going to spark something in your life. And she is from Media General. Please, with a round of applause. The smile and the blushing is for me, but my people want to see you. So please, let's welcome Lady Beatrice Adu. Please give it up for her.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you. Please, a round of applause for her again. I agree that we needed to get up and dance. All right, once again, good morning to all of you. And I didn't quite get your name. Tracy, thank you very much. And yes, my name is Beatrice Adu, and want to say a big thank you to the organizers of this program. I always get excited to have the opportunity to impart what the Lord has blessed me with. I actually didn't think I'll be coming, meeting, worship, and praise going on. Yes, it was fun witnessing that. Yes, so again, like I was just saying, I'm always very excited when I get the opportunity to talk to young people, because when I was coming, I saw the golden youth. It is indeed your golden time. And thank you. You get the opportunity to waste it or make something out of your life. And it is really from this moment that, irrespective of your background, even if you were born in the deepest of poverty, you were born in the most challenging of circumstances, you were born even with golden spoon in your mouth, because there are people who are born in wealth and they end up wasting their lives. Irrespective of the circumstances, this is the moment you choose that you're going to turn things around. This is the moment you choose that if I have had things in my family, so many things, and in Ghana there are a lot of beliefs. Of course, it doesn't mean that these things that happen in the lives of people and in families don't happen elsewhere in the world, except that they may not have the knowledge to know. They may not be spiritually wise enough to know that what is happening, I need to deal with it from somewhere. So the point I'm trying to make is that irrespective of where you find yourself or where you were born, you can still make that change. The fact that you're here alone, and the fact that I'm standing here by the grace of God, is indicative that the Lord has something amazing for you. And it is also indicative, thank you, it is also indicative that there is an opportunity for you not to waste your life. It is also indicative that you have before you life and death, and you choose. And the fact that you're here again means that you're going somewhere. So even if you didn't have it at the end of or you didn't have it in your mind, it should be a reminder. You know why when at the end of the day, the Lord returns, and there are some people he will take to hell or heaven, and you cannot say that he was unfair, is because each and every human being gets the opportunity to want to follow the right path or the wrong path. And just when I mentioned it, I just remembered a story, and I haven't even started. I just remembered a story of a time, it must have been just when churches opened, after churches were locked down because of COVID. And our pastor said, it must have been end of August, September, thereabout. We're going to evangelize to bring people to church. And we went for communion service in the evening. And just when I got to the gate, I saw, was it 3 or 4 young men? They were just at the gate. It was almost 7 p.m. And I had my daily devotional. I'm with Christ Embassy, by the way. I had the daily devotional Rhapsody of Realities with me. I had plenty because they give it to us. We sponsor and then they give it to us to kind of give it to people for free. So I saw them, and out of nowhere, maybe I was just so filled with the Spirit, I I asked one of them, do you want to be born again? And he said, yes. I didn't preach. I didn't do anything. And then I said, okay, so you want to say this prayer after me? And he said, yes. And he said the prayer after me. The others, apparently they had come from the north and they didn't understand English, but he tried to interpret for him. To cut a long story short, I gave my number to him. It was in the middle of the week. By Saturday, this guy was calling me already that he wants to go to church with me. And I said, okay. I wasn't driving at the time, so I picked an Uber, picked him up. Apparently they were working, and this is East Legon. I was in the family home. So he was working in a building that was still being constructed with his friends. So they were like laborers or how do you call them, laymen. And he joined me. We went. Then following week, he called me again. He said, I want to go with you. And I went with him. And when we finished, this is why I'm telling this story. I had met a friend that I hadn't met in a very long time. So we were chit-chatting. How are you? Haven't seen you in a long time. Na, na, na. And then this guy came to me and was like, please, when are we going home? When are we going home? And then I said, come on, hold on. Are you hungry? I didn't even wait for the response. We have a restaurant in our church, so I just bought jollof for him, added water. I don't remember whether I added a drink, but I just told him, just relax, eat. When we finish, we'll go. So we wrapped everything up, go home, and I just wanted to have a quick nap. I realized I have 30 minutes, so I would make it snappy. I got home just about to have a quick nap, and then this guy called me crying. Madam. He was visibly shaking. I could hear it through the phone. And I said, what is it? He said, my brother, the guy I work with, he just died. And I said, died? What happened? That morning it had rained. So apparently, because the building wasn't completed, the electrical wires got connected with the water, and he didn't come. So I think he obviously, we are 70% water, right? It touched him, and he was electrocuted and died. Of course, electrocuted means you've died. So if this guy had been home, he would have died with him. And then he said, Madam, the reason I'm shaking is because the first day we're coming to church, I told him to come. He told me he didn't have trousers. And then I gave him that next week he would join me. When I gave him, he said, I'm not in the mood to go. So why did I tell this story? That the Lord has given each and every one of us. He will give all of us multiple opportunities. So at the end of the day, you can't turn around and blame him. Now may I start? So when I got the letter, I realized that we are talking about purpose, and the fact that at the end of this whole program, not just my session, the youth must develop creative, technological, and forward-thinking approaches to complex issues. Oh, how I love this. Because the first time, I wouldn't say it was the first time I traveled out of the country, but the first time I traveled to Europe, it was a youth program like this. It was the first time, European African Youth Parliament. So went to Germany, and all of us were in our 20s, not too long ago. So when we got there, one thing I noticed was that the young people who were in charge of the European Parliament, which, by the way, was in Berlin, they were really young, like 16, 15, the oldest, I think 23, and the 21-year-old, a British, was the vice president of the whole European Parliament. And the rest from Africa, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ghana, you can imagine the age. But I noticed that as young as they were, they had already developed their critical thinking. They were already analytical. They were already solving problems. There's this young lady called, I've forgotten her first name, but Thunberg. I think she's from she's from Europe, I'm trying to remember which country. This young lady has been so disruptive. Okay, maybe I shouldn't put it that way because there are so many people who support her. But when I say disruptive, she's she, per her understanding, is championing a good cause, which is global warming. But she also attacks leaders. Like, we've even had, unfortunately, the president of US, Donald Trump, responding to her, telling her that she should go to school and stop behaving like that. But it should tell you, and she's able to organize huge numbers of people. This is a young lady who is not even up to 20 years. And yet she's having this huge amount of influence. Why? Because the kind of systems that have been built outside give people opportunities as young as possible. There are people who are in senior high schools who are already working. It is part of the academic system. So you're learning, you're going to school you're going to work, you're attached to an agency. So that as you're learning, you're also practicing it. It is not now that you have finished computer science and you can't even find where a keyboard is, or you can't even identify what a mouse is. It is practical. Unfortunately, this is a system that you wouldn't say that everything is that practical, unless you go to certain schools. Like if you go to Ashesi, you know that, yeah, you're going to get it. Or you go to some top-notch schools, you're going to get that. But not everybody has the opportunity to. Which means that if somebody is in a developed country and you are in a developing country, as Ghana is termed, you've got to work like extra 3 or 4 times to be able to meet up. It's the reason we have doctors, nurses here. They go to UK and the rest, and they have to kind of retrain because they don't really respect or recognize what you've done. And so again, it comes back to the opportunity that you're having now, because the world has become a global village, such that if you are able to develop yourself so well, it doesn't matter where you find yourself, which part of the planet you're placed, you can still perform to the amazement and sometimes to the envy of those who think you shouldn't be here. It makes sense what I'm saying. So when I saw that, like I said, I was quite excited about it. And I just put just a few points really for us to get to understand why this is important and why we need to really empower ourselves. Again, recently I was in a tertiary institution and talking to the people. I won't mention because, but I was talking to them and I realized that a number of them couldn't even speak properly. They are in university. They couldn't write properly. They didn't know what was going on. How are you going to influence a policy if you don't know what's going on? For instance, yesterday, Parliament passed the reintroduced anti-gay bill, as we normally call it. Who is bothered here to want to get a copy, aside from a journalist like myself, who would obviously need to read it because I'm going to critique it? The minority is already minority in Parliament, is already raising issues about Article 9 of that, and certain points. They think the government has watered down this bill and has now dumped it on Ghanaians, and it won't bite. Has it been your interest to pick it as an individual? You don't have to be a journalist. You don't even have to have the aspiration of being an MP or a president of the country. But have you bothered to, what is going on in my country? We've seen young people in France, in other places, demonstrating because they feel, and most of them have been on this global warming thing. They think the government is not doing enough to deal with the problem. How many of us are bothered about the fact that we are driving and there are plastics all over the place? How many of us are bothered that it rains and it's flat everywhere? And after the rain and the water recedes, all you see is dirt and plastics. How many of us are bothered? We expect that the journalists will go there with a camera and say, oh, government, they need help. No. But who puts the plastics in the gutters? We are always saying, educate the people. How many of us are bothered to want to raise some of these issues? Recently, we heard Environmental Protection Agency saying that they are going to ban plastics, like what you use for, is it styrofoam or something? Yes, the plastic for packaging food. January 2027. I was wondering why it's in January. Maybe it's to give them time to, fade it out. But it's not the first time we are hearing of banning of plastics, but there are people with huge interest. But at which point do you feel burdened as an individual to say that we've had enough? Look at the Arab Springs. Of course, it didn't end up anywhere. At the end of the day, they removed all the leaders, and we've had, unfortunately, those who were interested in the wealth of that country taking advantage. So the people are not really benefiting as they should. The whole purpose of the Arab Springs with the Arabic countries, Mohammed Morsi, I think at that time he was the president of Egypt, and all of those things coming together was to just change the system, make our lives better. Unfortunately, if you study international politics, you know that some of these things are sponsored by some powerful individuals who just want to have their ways in such countries. But if you are informed, you will know. You'll be able to hold your government accountable. It doesn't have to take the politicians always on radio, on TV, this says that says that, and then all of you, and I realize the Ghanaians love that. When you have the hot politicians arguing, the views just shoot up like that. Like everybody, they want to hear all the nonsense things that they are saying. But at the end of the day, the question is, how does it go into helping the country? If you are informed, like I'm just giving the example about the anti-LGBTQ bill, you're informed, you're educated, you can walk to Parliament with your petition and say that we don't like this, we call it, and make it better. Or, it's okay, but you can add a bit more. And if a number of people puts that pressure, the government will listen. Look at what's happening in South Africa. How many of us are even monitoring? It's despicable. But they've gotten the whole country to move its people, and now they are trying to gaslight us and say that we move too quickly and all of that. But you have to be informed. If you want to move somewhere, I'm telling you, you will not appear and the knowledge will appear in your head. You have to be informed. So that's the first thing. You have to be informed. And I was just also talking about the need to participate in democratic processes. Again, one thing I noticed, and I will refer to the Germany story about young people doing wonders, while a lot of people, sometimes it's amazing. People are in their late 30s, 40s, and they're living with their parents and they don't have any problem with it. They actually get angry that they go home and their mom didn't have food for them. Really? Elsewhere, I'm not saying that we should adopt that, but elsewhere, 18 years, you want to leave. I remember one of the ladies I visited, and outside of Ghana in Europe, and her son was 16 years. And when a guy is like teenage, they feel like, yeah, I've arrived. And when the mom talks and he's angry, you'll be like, yeah, very soon I'll leave the house. And say, yeah, no problem. Very soon you leave the house. You'll be responsible for your life. So it is not to punish you, but to make you responsible. You should be able to know yourself enough that I can do this or I cannot do this. It will influence everything concerning you. It would influence the kind of relationships you get into. It would influence how you treat relationships. It would influence how you manage things because you know yourself. But if you don't work on yourself to get that level of independence, you just be like everybody else. But I believe that the people who are seated here today are not just everybody else. There are people with vision who are going somewhere. Even if the vision is not clear, you know that there's this feeling within you that I'm going somewhere. I cannot just do anything. Some of us may have been blessed with the Lord guiding us from the very beginning. Others you may not know. You may make some mistakes. But there was a scripture I didn't like. Romans 8:28. I didn't like it. All things work together for you. Because I didn't want anything bad happening to me. I just didn't like it. Only good things. Until one time, one of the pastors explained and said that actually, all the bad things, all of them, they work together, plus your mistakes. And it changed my mind about that. So if either I intentionally made that mistake or out of ignorance I made that mistake, I should believe that just like if you're driving and or you are in an Uber, because it is in these circumstances that the taxi drivers are magicians, they know everywhere. They don't need Google Map. But if you're using Uber, Bolt, or you're driving, like when I was coming here, I'd have been here earlier, but I was like, what is the road to this place? Drove up, came back, and then finally I found it around the roundabout and I came in here. But I was using the Google Map. When there is traffic, or you know the road and you don't want to go, the map, if you don't follow the map will say rerouting, and then it will give you a different route. That is my understanding of even if there was a mistake, he never runs out of ideas in getting you to where you ought to be, as long as you're willing to just follow. So that's that bit. So I've talked about knowledge. I've talked about, yes, I haven't really fully made this point, but I was talking about developing yourself such that you'll be able to participate. And that would also mean, that's why I talked about the being at a particular age and still feeling comfortable that you're being fed. And sometimes it's part of the limitations of the culture. You need to be able to get. Culture is great, it's wonderful, it defines people. It tells you that, oh yeah, in Nigeria we talk like this, or in Ghana we talk like this. I didn't really get the Nigerian accent that well, but but you get to identify that this is culture. But it doesn't mean that you should take everything hook, line, and sinker. There are certain things that will derail you in terms of your progress. So that, for instance, one of the main things that I remember when I was in SS, people used to say was, oh, when a young lady wants to mess up, then you say, oh, let me go and rent an apartment. And yeah, so that all the boys can come in and just mess up and nobody is watching, no parent is. If you, at this stage, I believe a number of you are students, some might have started working, and you know where you're going, you won't mess up. You won't mess up. You won't mess up. Because the other side of the story is also true. That those who can stay with the parents up until, let's say, 30-something, 40, and if you get to know what is under their sleeves, you'll be shocked. So the presence or the absence of parents, if you know where you're going, shouldn't determine whether or not you do bad. So that is to emphasize the point of dealing with limitations, the cultural limitations, and there are so many of them. I just gave one example. Technology is another thing that you should pay attention to. And it becomes so critical because this generation has such a huge opportunity to make money without sweating. As long as you're not shaking your bum and wearing skimpies, and because crazy people love that, you make your name with that, but it's for the wrong thing. But if you use technology instead of spending 2 hours on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, just scrolling, watching what everybody else is doing, plus the usage of your data and your money, why wouldn't you take advantage of learning something? And it's become so easy. Recently, I registered at a school, and before I did the registration, one of the leaders in church was telling me, oh, you can do internet. And I said, oh, let me just try the on-site. It's been quite tough because of my schedules, I can tell you. I have never been a kobolo in my life like this time. Like you finish with work and you're just so tired. But the point I'm making is that you can still go on the internet, like IT technology. Apparently, there's this website called Coursera, Cousera. I think there are free versions, and if you want to get to certain bits, you have to pay. But even that, I don't think it's that expensive as compared to if you had registered in the school. And I think that if you're committed, you'll be able to do it. So there's so many opportunities. Now, if you don't know how to cook, as a guy, let me just be biased. You can easily go on YouTube, wherever, and just learn how to do it. So let me just run through very quickly. I already talked about relationships. And I think I already emphasized that. Because if you get to know yourself, you get to know where you're going, etc., and you'll be able to know which relationships. I can tell you that if you've gotten to know yourselves that much, and you have a relationship with the Lord, and somebody approaches you and it's a red flag, the Lord will tell you, no, don't even try. Don't even try. You can disobey and try, and you'll be bent. You'll be bent. So that's it. And then also, throughout this, I've just spoken about the need for God to play an important role in what you do, His Word to play an important role in what you do, the Holy Spirit to play an important role in what you do. And these three come together to help you meditate and to help you focus as you should. And at the end of the day, there's one thing that is repeated in the Bible over and again. Do not be afraid. Because it doesn't mean that things are going to be easy. Sometimes people will intentionally just do the wrong thing. They know what they are doing is wrong, but they want to do it because they want to get under your skin. Because they see a light and they can't understand why you have that light. But you see, as long as you're a child of God and He has blessed you with something, it doesn't matter how. I saw this, I think it's a TikTok video, just wrapping up in just a few seconds so that if you've got questions, you can ask. About water, like ice, it was like a toy, and fire, just making noise. And then water just hacked the fire, and everything just calmed down. As long as you're on that path, nothing can derail you. So just want to leave you with one of the scriptures that I love, which is in Deuteronomy 31, verse 8. And you can read it yourself, but sometimes you leave here and you remember that, you were supposed to call mommy for some cash. And so you might forget. So let me just read that very quickly, just so if you're not able to read it immediately, you can get that at least in your hearing. And just wondering which of the... So this is the NIV version. It says, the Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So I didn't talk about a lot of obstacles and stuff, but you face them. And at every point, you need the wisdom of God to navigate through them. Everybody's story is unique. Everybody's story is different. And that is why the Holy Spirit is like customized for us. So that if A dealt with it this way, we could deal with it that way. Even with that same person, Moses, the first time he said, strike the rock, and water came. The second time he said, talk to the rock. The same person, he gave him two different strategies. But because of anger, which will cloud your sense of judgment and your ability to discern, he had to strike it again. And he didn't know that that tiny disobedience will cost him seeing that land that he had taken the children of God through. And the thing pained him, or if you read the scripture, it's like every time when he was angry with the children of Israel, he will remind them that because of their stubbornness and stiff-neckedness, if there was a word like that, he's not able to see the land. So that's what I'll leave you with. I didn't tell my story, but I want to believe that these words would help you navigate through whatever it is you have to navigate through. And if you've got questions, I have like 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.